speaker today is Andrea Bushweiler from the Lakehouse Inn and Winery, who, I think it was appropriate as the weather turns here a little bit and our thoughts start to turn to other things after a long winter. And I think this was a great speaker and entity to bring in today. We'll start thinking about the lake and our wineries and the tourism industry. So it's great to bring in a local business, and I think it's a really good success story here for Ashtabula County, and certainly one of the reasons they were recognized at last year's Best of the County Awards with the George H. Kaull Entrepreneurship Award. I will let Andrea do the heavy lifting here. I don't want to do too much. I think a lot of us see the Lakehouse Inn as one of those overnight 13-year success stories. Certainly over the last couple of years, they've certainly done a lot of great things there, but I'll let her talk a little bit more about where they started and where they are today and where they're going from here.
As Brian said, my name is Andrea Bushweiler. My family and I have owned the Lakehouse Inn since 2000. It has definitely not been an overnight success story. It has been 13 years, a lot of sweat and tears, and lots of hard work. Just to give you a little bit of history on how we got into the business. In 2000, my brother and I were both graduating from college at the same time, and we were both planning on moving back home. At the time, my dad owned an automotive repair shop. My brother knew that's where he was going to be working. Me, with a business degree, had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. But I did know that I was going to be coming back home. My brother was in Vermont, I was in Columbus. At that same time, my parents had been looking for a house on the water. They'd always wanted to live on the water, and so they've been looking and hadn't had any success finding something. Joyce Otto, who was the owner of the Lakehouse Inn, which was out of court for many years, had it for sale. She was a customer of my dad at his repair shop, and so they called me up one weekend and said, Andrea, there's this bed and breakfast in Geneva-on-the-Lake for sale. Why don't you come home and take a look at it? And I said, where is our bed and breakfast in Geneva-on-the-Lake? Had no idea where it was. Came home, realized it was next door to Sturgeon Point condominiums, which I hung out all the time when I was in high school. Looked at it, we said, sure, why not? Let's buy it. So my brother graduated on Saturday, I graduated on Sunday, and we took over on Tuesday. The next weekend was Memorial Day weekend. To say that we jumped into a business is an understatement. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing that summer. It was a very, very long summer. We started with 3 employees. It was myself, a friend of mine, and Shirley, who came with the business. So it was definitely a learning experience for us. To give you a little history on the Lakehouse Inn, it has been in business since the 40s. The Collingers started it then. We are the 4th family to own it. The Collingers had it for, 20, 30 years? And then the Otto family had it. There was another family that had it for about 3 years, and then Joyce Otto got it back, and then we purchased it from Joyce. So we are the 4th family to own that business. When we purchased the property in 2000, it consisted of a 12-room inn. It also had 8 cottages, and it had very, very small living quarters, which is where my brother and I were living. That's the other thing. My parents didn't actually get their house on the water because my brother and I were living there. But it was literally too tiny. It was about the size of a dorm room and a bathroom that we shared. So luckily we had come from college, so we were used to that. In the 12-room inn, 4 of those rooms did not have private bathrooms. They still had the shared bathrooms in the hallways. So remember, it was built in the 40s. And there was also this game room that was sat right on the water's edge. Had a pool table, ping pong table, that kind of stuff. So after our first summer, we had to reevaluate and say, okay, what are we going to do? That game room, that first summer, everybody kept saying, we want to rent that. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a rental, it's a game room. We also didn't like the game room because we kept having to call the company to come and retrieve the ping pong ball out of the pool table because kids kept putting the wrong balls in the wrong tables. So we decided to make a couple of changes, and we took that game room. This was the first big project we did, and this was the winter of 2001 to 2002. And we took that building and we lifted it up, and we actually built a wine cellar in the basement of it. So we did decide at that time also to build a winery. And the main reason we decided to build a winery is we saw at sunset, all of our guests would be going and sitting outside, and they'd all have a glass of wine with them to watch the sunset. And we're like, wouldn't it be nice if they were drinking our wine and we were getting paid for that? So we talked to Donnie Winchell from Ohio Wine Producers, and the wineries, there were wineries in the area, but they hadn't really developed to what they are now. So we really got on the bandwagon at the right time. So that winter of 2001, we built the wine cellar, we lifted that building up, and this building over here on the right, that one is the Beach House now, which is our #1 selling unit. It is our most popular unit, but it sits right on the water. It's just a 1-bedroom. We built it to be a honeymoon suite, so it's a 1-bedroom. We actually took the shell of the original building, it has the same floor, same walls, we put a new roof on it, and then house underneath that is our wine cellar and our tasting room. You can kind of see there's like a deck off of the back of that, and underneath that deck is a glassed-in tasting room, which is where our winery has been since 2001. So both of those opened in 2002. So that was the first big project that we did on our property. The next thing that we did was we took those rooms that didn't have private baths, that had the view of the lake. They were the best rooms in the house, but nobody wanted to rent them because they didn't have the private baths. So we actually took 5 rooms and turned them into 2 larger jacuzzi suites. So they are now our biggest rooms. They had the best amenities and the best view. So they went from being our least popular rooms to our most popular rooms. Those went over so well that I think that was in like 2003. The next year we actually took 2 other rooms and turned those into another jacuzzi suite. So we went down from 12 rooms to actually 8 rooms in the inn, in the bed and breakfast. So the very first thing that we did during that time period is we worked on the rooms. And we kept the 8 cottages and we still had those. So we had a total of 20 units, then we went down to 18, 17 units, something along those lines. The next thing that we did, we were always trying to find things to do to get people to come to our property, reasons to get them to stay. I'll remember our very first winter, so we took over in May, and the first November we had 1 guest that stayed the entire month. They can't make a lot of money off of 1 guest stay. So we were always trying to come up with different ideas and different things that we could do to get people to come and stay at our property. So I think really the first summer that we were there, we started doing steak fries and fish dinners and serving meals to our guests. So around 2004, we decided to build a picnic pavilion. And my brother was cooking and he was doing steak fries and fish fries, and we were serving food on the weekends to our guests. It was a picnic pavilion, it wasn't enclosed. Well, that summer was a really, really bad summer, and so the weather was crummy and we decided to enclose it. Well, then we found out once we enclosed it, it had to be a restaurant. We had to get a restaurant license for it. So a lot of things happened on our property that we didn't really intend for it to happen, it just kind of, we fell into it. So from 2000 to 2004, our big focus was all on lodging, was lodging guests. Even when we first opened our winery, our thought was that the winery was only going to be for our lodging guests. Everything that we were doing was to attract overnight guests to our property. What we found, though, was everything that we were adding to our property was bringing non-lodging guests in. So we then had to kind of shift our focus from lodging guests to the non-lodging income. So that's kind of what we did from 2005 to 2009. Our big focus went on how can we generate additional income, additional guests onto our property who are not staying here. So the first thing that we did was we closed in Crossman's Grill, which is our restaurant, and then we added a patio onto it. So we had inside seating when the weather was crummy, but then we also had an outside patio. We actually added that patio on twice. We added on a small patio, and then a few years later we added on a larger patio. One of the things that we found out on our properties, we've never built anything big enough. We always keep having to make things bigger. Another thing that we did was we swapped homes, and I moved out and my parents moved in. I lived there for about 5 years, and at that time I was the only one in my family working there full time, and as you can imagine, living and working at the same place is really, really hard, because I never had any place to go to get away from work. And at that time, my parents were really at the point in their life where they really wanted to move to the lake. They wanted to sell their house. So my husband and I bought a house. My parents sold their house in like a week. And so they actually moved into my old apartment. And then that winter, they spent living in a cottage. And they remodeled the inn, and they built their innkeeper suite. So they added a really nice innkeeper suite onto that property that they live in now. And my husband always says if he knew that they were going to build that nice of a suite, we would have stayed there. But I don't think they were going to build that for us. The other thing is we added a front porch onto our bed and breakfast, which I think you can see where is that picture? There's no porch on the front. So if anybody that's been to our property, we built that porch around 2005, 2006. You don't remember that, Sarah Jane? She was across the street and she doesn't remember that porch. Just one of those little things where we're like, we'd always love to have a porch. And so when we were doing the innkeeper suite, we decided to add a porch. And it's one of those things now where you can't remember what it was like without a porch. We were jealous of the Eagle Cliff Inn down the street that had a porch, so we needed to add a porch. Another thing that we got into during this time period was weddings, which I was like, no, we are not doing weddings. I have no desire to be a wedding planner, that is not my thing. But people kept calling saying, we'd really like to have a wedding on your property. And if anybody knows me, I don't pass up money. Like, I will do it. If you're going to pay me, I will do it. So we started doing weddings and found out that, okay, maybe this is something here. There's a little bit of a drop in all of this. my husband and I got engaged, and we were gonna get married at the Lakehouse. And I remember being in Florida with my dad and saying, Dad, okay, you know, we used to have, in the backyard, it was like a sloping, grassy area, and then there were some wooden decks down on the water. And I said to my dad, I was like, can you please build some benches or something that we can put in the grass, a place for my guests to sit when we have our wedding. We were in Florida during this time on vacation in January. He went home, I was still in Florida, he calls me up because I have such a better idea, Andrea. I came home, he goes, guess what, we're gonna build a couple of stone patios. So $50,000 later, I got the benches that I needed for my wedding. It was the best thing that we have ever done on our property. I cannot believe how it affected our winery business, because all of a sudden we had these beautiful stone patios and all this seating, and everybody wanted to come and sit on our patios and sit on and enjoy the water. And it really turned out to be a great thing also for our events, because it worked so much better for the weddings that we did and parties that we do. So never thinking we were going to go into weddings, it has now become a really big part of our business. We do weddings all the time. I've actually just hired this year someone dedicated to catering and events coordination, because I can't handle it anymore on my own. So it's become a big part of our business. The other thing that we did during this time period is we decided to close down 5 of the 8 cottages. The reason we did this is the winery and restaurant were really starting to grow. And the problem, we were having 2 issues. One, we didn't have enough parking. We still don't have enough parking. And the guests that were renting our cottages weren't interested in going to the winery and the restaurants. And so we had to take a focus on our business and say, who's our client? Who do we want to stay here? And we decided that those cottage guests weren't the clientele that we wanted to market to, because we wanted the couples who were going to come and were going to go to the winery and go to the restaurant. So we closed down 5 of those cottages, so it gave us some more parking on our property. It also gave us the ability to take those cottages and turn them into other things. One of them got turned into a prep kitchen that was all the food for the winery. One of them got turned into the press room. We had outgrown the wine cellar, and so cottage number 4 is now the press room, and that's where all of our white wines are and all of our wine pressing is. We still have the wine cellar in the basement, but only the rest stay in there. We turned the laundry room into one of it. So all of those cottages are still, they're all being used for something, and our current staff laughs at us because they're like, well, where can I find this? I'm like, cottage 6. They're like, what is cottage 6? But we still refer to them as the cottages because that's what they are, but cottage 6 is now our storage room. So during 2005 to 2009, that was our really big focus, was what we could do for non-lodging guests. You know, we'd always been bed and breakfast. That was our main business, but it was just really starting to change over the years, and we never intended to build it, but that's just kind of what was happening. So we really focused during that time frame on how we could build a winery and restaurant business. So that leads me into 2010 to 2011. And this is probably the time frame that we've done the most since 2010. So when we took the biggest leap with our business. In the fall of 2010, we purchased a property that is directly across the street from our inn and our winery. We'd actually been trying to buy it for a couple of years. We weren't having any luck on negotiating a price. And then we found out that summer of 2010 that part of the property was going to go up for sheriff's auction. That made us really nervous because we didn't know what was going to happen to that property, who was going to buy it, who was going to be across the street from us. So we put in an offer, and then we actually went to village council and said, you know, we'd like to purchase this property, but we will only purchase it if you will change the zoning to commercial. Because we had an idea of what we wanted to do with it. We knew it was going to be a commercial property. We weren't going to use it as rentals because everybody wants to stay on the north side of the street when they're renting a lodging property. So it took a couple of months, but September of 2010, we got the keys to the building. I don't know if anybody remembers what it was. It was a house and a bunch of cottages. The cottages that are still there, the nicest ones, are the ones we didn't tear down. They look pretty bad though. They need to be torn down. And there was a 3-bedroom ranch house. So during that summer, as we're buying this property and negotiating, you know, we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this property? Well, one of the things that I really wanted to do was I needed an indoor event room because we do a lot of events in the summer season. We do them outside on a patio, which is great when it's 80 degrees and sunny, but when it's pouring down rain, it runs into a little bit of an issue. So what we were doing at the time is if it was raining, I had to move the event into the great room of our bed and breakfast, which was the common room for our lodging guests, and it just didn't work very well because it wasn't fair to our lodging guests. So that was the first thing that I saw. I said, let's take that house and let's turn it into an event room. The other thing that we had been talking about for a couple years was a day spa. We had started doing massages in the rooms, We had a couple massage therapists that would come and the guests could get massages. So I'd always kept saying to my massage therapist, I'm like, if I could ever get another building, I'll build you guys a place to do the massages, because trying to fit 2 massage tables into our rooms was really, really tough. So that was the other thing that we decided to do when we bought the property. So when we got the keys in 2000, the first thing that we did was we renovated the event room. So we did that, that whole year. I think it opened in the fall of 2011. The other nice thing that happened is we got a little bit more parking. We did extend that parking a little bit, so all of our staff now parks across the street, and we have a little bit more parking for our event parking as well. We also, if anybody's been on our property, we hired a valet because we do not have enough parking, and so on the weekends in the summer, we always have a valet there, double and triple parking our parking lots, so we can try to accommodate everybody that comes onto our property. I think parking in general is just an issue in Geneva-on-the-Lake. So then the other thing we decided to do was, obviously we decided to open up a day spa, and that opened, didn't open until last year, opened February of 2012. So we bought this piece of property knowing that we were going to be adding some new things onto our business. The other thing that we had been toying with at this time was the restaurant, because we were running into kind of the same issues with the restaurant. Most of the seating was outside. We could seat 50 inside and only 50 outside and only 20 inside, which was great when it was sunny, but on a Saturday night when the patio is full and a storm blows in off the lake, it was really hard to find a place to put everybody. So we've been toying with, we need to enclose the restaurant, make some changes. We kind of were thinking that, and then all of a sudden we bought the property across the street, so we had to focus on the property across the street. The other thing that we really started to focus on during that time period, having been in business for 10 years, even though we've been able to build a winter business, clearly Geneva-on-the-Lake is a summer area. That is our bread and butter, that is when we're going to make our money. The winter's great because it helps pay the bills, but winter's never going to be the summer. So we really focused on the summer, and we increased our hours. The winery's open 7 days a week. The restaurant's open 6 nights a week. We added outdoor seating. We started doing lunch service in our winery. We added the valet parking. So a lot of we're trying to focus on, okay, what can we do to really build the summer season and get as many people on our property, bring as much money as we possibly can during that time period. So that was our focus during that time period in the midst of doing this big construction project. So we opened the event room in October of 2011. As soon as the event room was finished, my dad moved on to the other half of the building, which was the spa. The front part of the spa was the garage of the 3-bedroom house, and then the rest of it is brand new. The spa opened February of 2012. As soon as that project was finished, literally the next day they moved over to the restaurant. So for a year and a half, my dad, who was the general contractor along with another contractor, for a year and a half we did construction building projects on our property. So it was very, very crazy. The restaurant, they started in February and we opened it Mother's Day weekend. And it went from a 20-seat restaurant to a 50-seat restaurant. The outside patio got enclosed and the other restaurant was currently still open. We only closed down for, I think, maybe a month to finalize the project. So when we opened the day spa, it has lots of different services. Massage, couples massage was the big thing. That was the main reason we wanted to open the spa. So we do have a room that can do couples massages. We have 3 other treatment rooms. We just opened 1 more treatment room. But the main reason we wanted to do the spa was couples massages, and we wanted to do hair and makeup for our brides because we do a lot of weddings, so the brides wouldn't have to go anywhere else. They could get everything on the same property. So when we opened the spa, that was our plan. What we found out is a spa is very, very different than everything else we run on our property. And what I found out is you can't hire someone just to do bridal hair. If you're going to hire a cosmetologist, they want to do hair in general, and they want to do nails and all this other things. So we had to change our focus a little bit on that. And we just keep adding services because as you're hiring staff, you have to add the services that they want to do in order to get them to come to your facility and work there. So that was our start. Now at this point, we do massage, facials, manicures, pedicures, hair, everything from updos to cutting to coloring. We actually are adding spray tan this month, so we do a lot. We are a full service spa. We are the only full service spa of our type in the area. We also serve wine there. As a side note. One perk to our spa. And then, so that opened in February, and then Mother's Day weekend, so next weekend will be our 1-year anniversary with our new restaurant. Our restaurant opened. The main reason, there were lots of reasons we wanted to do the restaurant. The one was having a year-round restaurant, having the ability to seat people no matter what the weather was like. Before we did the renovation, in the winter we were only open on Fridays and Saturdays. There just wasn't enough seating to be open. It wasn't a real restaurant yet. People didn't consider it a real restaurant because it was built to be a picnic pavilion. So by doing the renovation, we were able to turn it into a year-round business. Kitchen efficiency, we were able to combine the kitchens. We were currently, before this, we were working on 3 separate kitchens. The bed and breakfast served breakfast in one kitchen, the winery had a kitchen, and then the restaurant had a kitchen. Now, we're at the point where all food service comes out of the exact same kitchen in our restaurant, so we have a lot more efficiency. The other thing that we're really focusing on in our restaurant is local. My brother Nate is our head chef, and he is all about local right now. He and Mark are best friends right now because that's all they talk about is local. He works with tons of farmers. He's trying to get his entire menu local, and it's not only food. We have local alcohol. We were just featured in Cleveland Magazine because we have a local drink featuring Seven Brothers Vodka, which is from Painesville. And that's one of the things that we're trying to set ourselves apart. We have the location on the lake, so that's one of the things that makes us unique, but I think having a local menu will make us unique to the other restaurants in the area as well. The one thing that we found out all of a sudden, now that we've added the spa and we did the restaurant, is we had to really sit down and reevaluate our business, because it's not the same business anymore. We pretty much went from having 1 to 2 businesses to almost having 4 businesses now, so we've really had to change our business model. For the first time, food and beverage is our is the bigger portion of our business, whereas lodging for 12 years was always the #1 focus on our business, and now all of a sudden it's food and beverage. So this past year has been really a learning experience for myself and for the rest of my family because we really had to sit down and reevaluate. We have to put new staff in place. 5 years ago, I could manage the entire property on my own, and I can't do that anymore. So now we're hiring staff and hiring managers and putting it in place in all the different parts of the business because we just can't physically be in all the locations all the time. So a lot's happened in the last 2 years, and so that's really what our focus is right now, is just trying to make sure we have the right staff in place and making sure that we're organized and efficient and just running the business the best way that we possibly can. And for the future, we have no big projects on the horizon right now. Tell my dad he's not allowed to do anything. But we're kind of at the point now where we really have to revamp the property. The beach house was done in 2002, so it needs to be renovated a little bit. We did just renovate our cottages this past winter, and they turned out really, really nice. But it had been 10 years since we'd done anything to them, so we really needed, same thing with the rooms in the inn. Everything gets a fresh coat of paint every year, but we just want to change the colors around. And so there's just a lot of little things that we're focusing on now. We do have some ideas, probably 4 to 5 years down the road, but for right now, we're just going to really focus on the business and really running the business and making sure we're running it as well and as efficiently as we possibly can. And that is pretty much our story. Yes.
Andrea, I know you try to track where your customers come from. Can you give us a sense of demographics?
Our #1 county is Cuyahoga County. More of our guests come from Cuyahoga than any other county, but in our top 10, it's Cuyahoga, Summit, Stark County, Pittsburgh, I'm not sure what county that is out in Pittsburgh. We're starting to get a lot more people from the Columbus area, and we're slowly getting into the Cincinnati area. And actually Lake County. I'm surprised at how many people we get from Lake County as well. Well, I'm talking mostly lodging for the most part. Ashtabula County, yes, we do have people that come to our winery and our restaurants. It's really hard to track the winery of where they're coming from. Restaurant we do track because we have people fill out a form for a drawing. Same with the spa, we collect their names and everything. To be honest, Ashtabula County is not up there because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because we're looked at as a tourist area or I'm not sure, but we are trying to let Ashtabula County know. You'd be amazed how many people don't know that we're open all year. And we've been here for 13 years, so we'd love it if Ashtabula County would come to our facility all the time. But at this point, we have to depend on the other counties. Yes?
What's your Mother's Day special?
Oh, at the spa? Our Mother's Day special that we're running for the month of May and June at the spa is a 30-minute massage, a mini facial, and a mini pedicure for $119. It can be used during those 2 months. So it's a great way to get a variety of services at the spa and try it out.
What about at the restaurant?
The restaurant will be open on Mother's Day from 12 to 7. We'll have a couple of food and drink specials as well.
Where do you get your wine?
We make the wine on our property. We get the grapes. We contract with one of the local vineyards, so we buy the grapes from that vineyard, and then we do all the production on site.
You may have already said, but on the staffing side of things now with all four, what's the total up to?
This summer, we'll have about 70 people on staff. We have probably year-round, we have around 30 to 40. Adding the spa added a ton of staff. And between the spa and the restaurant, we added a lot of staff. So we went from 3 people to about 60 to 70 people.
How would you describe your relationship with the lodge? 'Cause
We have a really good relationship with the lodge. I know I was telling Scott a little bit ago, when we decided to open our day spa, the lodge at the time was doing massages, and they decided to stop doing massages, and we actually have a contract with them where they pretty much promote our spa as it's part of part of their business, and so they send their guests to us. When they first opened, I got tons of business out of them because I did all those overbookings. But we have a really good relationship. They send people to us all the time. I do a lot of rehearsal dinners for their weddings. So we have a wonderful relationship with the lodge.
Can you tell us about Nate's background?
Nate is my brother. He is our chef. As I mentioned, my dad owned an automotive repair shop, which he closed down in 2011. The reason they decided to close it down, my dad and my brother were both working there full time and then also working at the Lakehouse, and we had to focus on one business, and we decided that the Lakehouse was the better business to focus on. So Nate has a degree in automotive technology, but he's now the executive chef at our restaurants. So that's kind of his history. So we went from one extreme to another.
Andrea, you would make coffee nervous, I think. Do you ever find time to relax?
No, people say that to me. They're like, you have a spa across the street. I'm like, I never have time to go there. No, I stay busy. I have a 1.5-year-old too, so I really stay busy.
Is it challenging finding suitable employees?
Yes. Well, there's lots of reasons it's challenging. Again, Scott and I had this conversation. Being in Asheville County, we can't offer to pay what someone in Cuyahoga County can pay. So trying to find, we've been working on trying to find a restaurant manager. We can't afford to pay what they're paying in Cuyahoga County. We can't afford to pay benefits right now. So the other issue we have is we need a lot of staff seasonally. So we hire a lot of college students in the summer. The issue you run into that is they leave in the middle of August, and we're busy till the end of September. It's very, very hard. We're having a lot of issues. Last year, we hired a ton of great kids, really good. This year, we're running into, you hire them and they don't show up for their first day of work. You call them for an interview and they don't show up for their interview. So I don't know what's going on with the job pool this year, but we've been having a lot, it's been tough this year, to be honest. Yes?
How many weddings and what size?
We can do weddings up to 100. May through September, we can do weddings up to 100. We can do up to 40 the rest of the year. I think I have about 20 weddings or so. I have to be really careful with scheduling weddings because they take place directly behind the bed and breakfast. And if you have a wedding larger than 40 guests, you have to take the 8 rooms in the inn. So, and I can only do so many weekends because we have a lot of repeat guests. So if it's a weekend where I know those same guests are coming back next year, I can't book a wedding that weekend. So I kind of have like a half a dozen weekends that are always wedding weekends. But I have to be really careful because I don't want to lose my lodging guests who are regulars over a wedding that's only going to come once. So we only do about 20 weddings a year. We do a lot of private events like rehearsal dinners and bridal showers and baby showers and family reunions, that kind of stuff as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Andrew, it's an excellent story. We're very proud to say Andrew is a big leadership graduate from Leadership Asheville County. And as I was listening to the story, it kind of struck me, one of the things that's unique to our county and that we're really proud of is the many connections that are sparked by our local business, our entrepreneurs. And remembered a day, Fred Grimm and I were just speaking of this in 2007, and we had a United Way meeting to plan an ambassadors event. And I was on the committee with Fred and Patty Hewells, and served on the board with Carol Drennan, and we went to the Lakehouse Inn and said, could we have our event here? And it was a fantastic event to, not only kick off something for a nonprofit organization here in the county, but we're able to highlight a local business. And coincidentally, at that very same event, Bert Drennan said to me, have you ever thought about doing the leadership class? Taking part in that class, and the rest is history. So, it's a really, really exciting, not only, as we hear these stories throughout here from the Profiles Breakfast, but how we continue to make the connections. Andrew, I know, is active in the local community and serves on the board of the Ashtabula County Chamber, and also is active in many other organizations. And that's leadership, spirit of entrepreneurship that is so exciting to see continuing to grow here. Exciting, we're taking any suggestions that you may have for next year's Profiles calendar. And please feel free, we're looking at different ways that we can keep things dynamic and the format, and thinking about the success of what's worked in the past, and maybe doing some different things with some topics and some panels. So we definitely would like everyone's input and feedback on that. And be prepared for the email message and some different updates about the upcoming nominations for the Best of the County Awards. I believe this is the 25th year, so also a big anniversary year for the Growth Partnership in Ashtabula County. And I know our organization, Leadership Ashtabula County, is gearing up for our recruitment season for next year's class as well. So a lot of things to look forward to this summer. And everyone, if you are missing the Profiles Breakfast Series as we get into June, we do have our leadership annual meeting on June 19th, so feel free to join us as well. And it's a lot like the Profiles Breakfast. Here's some different updates. But thank you all for supporting the series throughout the year, and we look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Have a wonderful summer.